Joining us now, he's a good friend of the show. He's fresh off a season where they won 35 games at North Florida, reached the ASUN championship game for the second time in 3 seasons. He's entering his third season as the head coach. He's been at UNF now 9 seasons, and also very good mood because, whereas we're taping this, we're a week after Michigan's upset win over Ohio State. I speak in football. I speak of Jeff Conrad, kind enough to join us once again here on In the Circle at D1 Softball. You're in a good mood after that, right?
I'm in a great mood after that. I obviously went into that weekend not expecting much, just because it's been a bit of a subpar year for us, and obviously Ohio State went out and spent a great deal of money on a pretty star-studded roster, and we're limping into the game at 6-5, and I'm thinking. I remember, what was it, 3, 4 years ago, Ryan Day said that I'm going to hang 100 on Michigan. I was like, gosh, I hope this isn't the year he actually does it. But yeah, I mean, it's, how it is. I mean, these rivalry games, you throw out the records and, two teams get after it. And, I think fortunately for us on the Michigan side, we were, able to force Ohio State to play the game on Michigan's terms, which, led them to, run the ball a lot into the teeth of our defense. And the two first rounders, Mason Graham and Kenny Grant, had a big day. And it was an exciting weekend. I didn't expect much going into it, but I had a big smile on my face all week after
I,
after that.
I figured when I put in the request to get you back on the pod a couple weeks ago, yeah, the message I was relayed back is like, check back after Michigan Ohio State game.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. My availability is directly tied to the result of that game.
fair. No, very fair. But also, you've been busy because you've been wrapping up fall ball for your team as you get ready for the 2025 season. First, before we get into this year, 35 wins, as I mentioned last season, a trip to the ASUN championship game, 17 wins in the ASUN conference. Uh, Literally, what a win away from the NCAA tour. When you reflect back on last year, what comes to your mind?
Well, I mean, a lot of really good memories, a lot of really good thoughts. I mean, we had a group of seniors that really had the option, with the COVID year and things like that, to make a decision to get on with their lives, or to come back and use that extra year of eligibility, and they all came back, unified under the same thought of, let's go out and win a championship. And I think our team, really did a great job of buying into that mindset and believing it was possible. I think I actually just saw it today. I think it's been something like 12 years since UNF has won a regular season championship. So I think that was something that, they really, really wanted to accomplish. And, no UNF softball programs ever played in the NCAA tournament. And I think they really felt like, if they could really unify, buy into that thought, they worked really hard and came really close to achieving everything that they wanted to do. So it was not obviously the ideal way to have our season end, but I think right around before our kids reported here in the fall, it was probably the first time that I was able to just take a step back and reflect on what last year's team was able to accomplish. It was getting walked off in extra innings, in a game to potentially go for the opportunity to play in that first regional is a tough pill to swallow, and it was these emotional couple of weeks for a lot of people following that loss. But looking back on it right before this season started, just really proud of those group of kids and them really buying into trying to do something that we just haven't been able to do. And to come that close, I think um, didn't necessarily make it any easier to accept, but I think it's really motivated the group that we do have coming back to know what it takes to get that far, and obviously not have that feeling again of coming that close but falling short.
Yeah, that incredible extra inning game against Florida Gulf Coast, who did some damage in the Gainesville regional. As a result, they were one win away from making a regional final. They eliminated Florida Atlantic in Gainesville, so it's not like you lost to a you lost to a really worthy team in FGCU. there. And what was remarkable about your season is you had to deal with a lot of adversity with injuries. I remember you came to Orlando to play UCF, and you weren't sure who was available to pitch because they had so
Yeah.
many injuries. You were kind of trying to navigate there. Does that even make it more remarkable now, for looking further away from it, what you were able to accomplish considering all the adversity you had with some of the injuries you had to deal with?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, obviously now my perspective looking back on it is a lot different from when it was moments after the game ended. But yeah, I mean, I think we obviously faced a lot of adversity. I mean, even facing adversity in the conference tournament, I think it was a lot of those things that you talked about that we experienced during the season that um, gave us that opportunity to get as far as we did in the postseason. Like we got knocked into the losers bracket by Florida Gulf Coast, and um, we're facing the point of we came here to win this tournament. Now we're in the losers bracket, and we've got to win. We've got to play a game against a really good team in Eastern Kentucky to get a chance to get into the championship game, or we're going home. And I think it was a lot of that adversity that we faced throughout the course of the year, battling injuries. That game you referenced at UCF, we didn't know who we were going to have available to pitch. I think we actually, even in that game, had an outfielder playing in our infield. Like we were pretty banged up at that point in the season. So, no question. I mean, but I think, all the credit goes to our kids, and just the fact that they just refused to give up to any circumstance, and they just really bought in on the fact of trying to do something special. And it was looking back on it now, it was really an incredible run by that group of seniors. I mean, that class had played a lot of softball at UNF, been a part of a lot of great memories, and I couldn't have thought of a better way for them to kind of close out their college careers by really accomplishing the one thing that I think they had all each individually set out to do. And it was tough. It was a really hard bus ride home. Just knowing not only that we come up short, but the fashion that you come up short. A walk off home run in extra innings, and I mean, it was a great game. I mean, we come out. I think it was in the top of the first inning, and we score 5 runs in the top of the first, and we're feeling really good. And I mean, to Florida Gulf Coast credit, they just kept chipping away, and we eventually fell behind, and our kids fought back and got right in it, and just it just wasn't meant to be. But I told those kids at the end it was probably one of the hardest, you know, uh, speeches that I've ever had to give at the end of a game, and in terms of I would reference that one back with I remember the year I was at UCF and we had gotten beat at the Tallahassee regional, and we had to come back and we had to beat South Carolina probably 10 minutes after that game ended just to get a shot to get at Florida State again in the regional final after they had beaten us in very similar fashion, walk off style. And just told those kids that they did their part in terms of pushing this program farther along. And as long as I'm here and I'm running the program, that I'll be carrying a piece of every single one of them, trying to get this thing through the finish line for them.
I would imagine that's the motivation for the returners as well. Like they were that close, getting a taste of it. I would imagine that this fall it was pretty easy. Those players, probably the returners, coming back motivated and trying to finish the story there, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I would say this is probably as locked in as we've been, in a fall. Obviously, certainly since I've been the head coach, which really hasn't, been that long. It's my third year, but obviously I was here, for a while as an associate head coach, and this team is as dialed in, I think, as any group, because we do have kids that were there and saw how close it was, and they had to live with that taste in their mouth all summer of being that close and falling short. And they had a lot of respect and a lot of friendships with that senior class, and know what it meant to them to try and accomplish that goal. And I think they, not only feel the push from last year's team, but all the previous teams that have done their part to push this program further along each year to get this thing through the finish line. So it's been a really good fall. The kids have been really locked in. It's been a really good group to coach.
Who are the leaders right now in this group for this year?
So Hadley Reichert was a kid who was a leader for us last year as a junior, and she's returning as a senior. She was a kid that we really needed to take that next step, last year, and we challenged her on that. And she did a great job with that, had an all-conference season. She's returning, and she's kind of really led the charge from the middle of the summer on, just, in terms of, um, just put your head down and work. Don't ask questions. Just do the job. And this has been as quiet a group in return in regards to not hearing a lot of, hey, why are we doing this? Or this is really hard. This group has really just been locked in and dialed in, and I think she deserves a lot of credit for that. Um, we had a kid that actually transferred in from UAB, Lulu Brock, who played a lot of softball at UAB, who, we picked up out of the portal, who's come in and really, made her mark on the program, and actually was nominated as a captain, and she's assumed a leadership role amongst the group, and I think it says a lot about her and her character that in such a short period of time that her teammates kind of recognize what she brings to the table, and saw her as a leader of the group. I think she's done a really good job. Ashley Connor is a kid who's been in the program now for 3 years, won 13 games 2 years ago. Last year probably didn't have the year that she wanted, but she's been a kid that's I think everything that you want in a leader, puts the program first, and just really kind of embraces that mom role on the team, and she's the one that all the kids feel really comfortable going with. So that's in essence been our leadership group, but we've gotten really good leadership from kids that are outside of that leader title. Allison Benning is obviously somebody who people are very familiar with, and draws a lot of attention, and is just a super competitive kid, and obviously a great competitor, great softball player. She's done a lot really in her last year from a leadership standpoint, and the kid that's probably made the biggest turn and for the positive has been Chloe Culp, which has been a really positive thing for us. She's coming back now as a 6-year grad student, but just being able to dive into the experiences she had transferring over from Florida State and being a part of their World Series team, and things like that. I think she's really gotten to a point now where she's just really matured and really taken on a leadership role that's been really positive within our program this year.
Yeah, I would say Allison Benning, one of the best two-way players in the country. 347 last year, 16 homers, 46 RBIs, won 19 games as your ace in the circle, 200 strikeouts on the season as a pitcher. And I've heard that she's even better this fall, maybe more comfortable in her settings than she was a year ago when she was still kind of figuring things out. What have you seen from Allison this fall?
Yeah, so she's the real deal. She's as good as advertised. Obviously I think when we were able to recruit her out of the portal, we knew we were getting a special player. Last year, you mentioned the stats. Those are eye popping. Fine, you would know this better than me as the historian you are, but find me a kid around the country that's putting up that kind of stat line. I would guess that list is very short. She's just a special player. She's a unique player. The interesting thing, she won 19 games in the circle for us last year, but she was kind of really reacclimating herself to pitching. The reason she left Oregon was, she's being used primarily as a first baseman, a DP. She wasn't pitching, was all Pac-12 as a freshman. So we knew she could swing the bat, but we knew she had a lot of potential in the circle. But last year was kind of that year where it was like getting her reacclimated, readjusted, to pitching every day and being an ace on the staff, and even just adjusting to being a hitter and pitching at the same time. A lot of different things like that. And yeah, she's come back. Just really, really from the she obviously was on the mound in that game, against Florida Gulf Coast, and I think she really just the type of kid she is. I mean, she just put a lot of responsibility, I think, on her shoulders in terms of, realizing that we got so close to accomplishing what we wanted to do and came up a little bit short. And just, I think it really drove her throughout the summer to really just lock in, dial in, and not only get us back to that point of where we were last year, but push us even, more forward. And I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, she's come back. We didn't really throw her at all in the fall. I mean, we know what we have in her. We feel really good about that. And, obviously wanted to try and limit her innings. So she did most of her, work in, our midweek scrimmages and throwing in bullpens and stuff like that. But, she's going to play some first base for us this year. So we spent the fall where she was just reacclimating to playing first base, and just throwing, in practice. We didn't really use her to pitch in games, just to keep her inning limit down. But she's obviously going to be a huge part of what we're going to do in the spring. And she came back in great shape. She's a big, strong kid. Her velocity's up. I mean, she was sitting 69 pretty consistently. And I mean, she's just got a devastating changeup. So, I mean, we feel really good, obviously, about having someone like that returning, to lead our staff. And, I mean, she's a special kid. She's a generational talent. And, it's a little bit of a dying breed. You just don't see those kids anymore that impact the game in so many different ways. The pitching, the on defense, the hitting. And I mean, I've spent a lot of time, this fall just talking to her about, everything that's going to be on her plate in the spring, and just, beginning to mentally prepare herself for all that. I mean, I think, the great example that I like to give her is looking at what Travis Hunter does at Colorado with not coming off the field. He plays offense, he plays defense, and that's a lot of what Allison Benning is going to do this spring for us. I mean, the kid's not going to leave the field. She's going to pitch. She's going to play first base. She's obviously going to swing a big bat for us. And, we spent a lot of time, talking about that. And she's, I know, embraced looking at the different things that Travis Hunter's talked about that he has to do on a weekly basis to, mentally prepare himself, but also physically prepare himself for that type of workload. And she's really kind of embraced that challenge. And, we're obviously expecting really big things from her again.
That's interesting. I like the Travis Hunter comparison because I remember last year. For those that don't know, she was voted second team All American by D1 softball
Yeah.
for utility there. And I remember the conversation around that time when all that was going on. We were comparing her to Shohei Ohtani a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
But now you're talking about adding her in the position. What led to that decision about playing her at first base? And then when you have a hitter like that, I'm fascinated. Do you like hitting her in the middle of the lineup? I know you've done that. Sometimes some people have said, "Well, do you lead her off?" Like the Dodgers
Yeah.
had Shohei lead off. Where do you
Yeah.
envision her with this lineup this year in the order?
I think it's going to be all the above, to be honest with you. I mean, it's something obviously I've done a great deal of thinking about, and, had a really unique, perspective on it. Looking at, we've talked before about my sister playing at Michigan, and, she went in, to Michigan, and she hit three as a freshman, in their lineup. And, it got to a point where teams just weren't pitching to her. So Hutch moved her to the leadoff spot. So, I mean, that's something that's very much on our radar. Obviously we've seen the Yankees do it with Aaron Judge. I mean, I mean, she's that advanced of a hitter that I think we're going to have to get creative, not only with where she's hitting in the lineup, but who's hitting behind her, things like that. I mean, there's even different things that we had to look at throughout the course of our fall with the runners that are on in front of her. Like we've kind of really started to change the makeup of our team offensively, where we run a lot more and we've got kids that can run. But as soon as we have a kid that's hitting in front of her that steals second base and first base comes open, well, then the hand goes out and it's put her on first base. So a lot of different things that we've had to really ponder and think about in terms of, even though this may be a great steal opportunity for us, not taking that extra base so that it doesn't just lead to her being walked. But yeah, I mean, she's a unique talent, a special talent, a type of talent that I think comes through at the mid-major level, not every year. So there's been a lot of thinking and game planning and strategy and conversation taking taking apart just in terms of how do we best utilize her and enable her to have the most success that she's, capable of having.
Still don't understand how she didn't win ASUN Play of the Year, but that's my thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let you comment on
Yeah.
that because that'll get.
Yeah. Don't. Yeah.
But I still am baffled by that. You've coached a lot of. You've been around and coached a lot of great players. Going back to your travel ball days, going back to UCF where you coached Kaylee Novak, who ended up playing professionally. Mackenzie Otis, Shelby Turnier, both fantastic, and they're now in the UCF Athletic Hall of Fame. You coached
Mhm.
Navia Penrod, who
Yeah.
is going to get inducted into the UNF Athletics Hall of Fame this January. Where
Mhm.
does Allison Benny rank as far as the best players you've coached?
Oh, I mean, that's a great question. It's really hard, to compare, players. I mean, they're all special in their own way. But I mean, Allison's special. I mean, there is no doubt about it. I mean, the one thing that she does that makes her different from all those kids is, she impacts the game on all three levels. And I mean, she's a good first baseman. I mean, she looks like she belongs over there, and we didn't really use her in that role last year because we had Logan Jackson, who plays a great first base for us, and was having a great year, and we just really needed Allison to focus on getting back into the whole pitching thing, knowing that moving into year two, her role was going to expand in that regard. But yeah, I mean, she's definitely right up there with all those names that you mentioned. I mean, she's an elite talent. She's a pro player. There's no doubt in my mind she'll probably be the first UNF softball player drafted, whether it's in AU or one of the other leagues or something. I mean, she's a pro. There's no doubt about it. I mean, she's the real deal. I mean, she is phenomenal player, and we're really fortunate to have her in our program.
I was blown away to see that Navia Penrod's going into the Hall of Fame this quick. I mean, it seems like
Yeah,
time flies.
yeah.
What's your reaction to her getting inducted? And is going to be representing the school and is going to be in the Hall of Fame. One of the great hitters of all time. I mean, she was. It seemed like it was a shocker when she didn't get a base hit in the game.
It was, yeah. I could not be happier. I mean, I mean, obviously, Nav and I were freshmen at UNF at the same time. In my first year here, she was a freshman, and I think we just really hit it off. And she was a sponge. I mean, she just was like, "Coach, I want to be a great hitter. Tell me what I need to do to become a great hitter." And I mean, she was just that type of player. And I think to have someone like that has that kind of success and to see her get that type of recognition and reward, I think is very, very rewarding. I mean, I found out about it. I think about 2 weeks before she did. Nick had called me and said, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know, Knob's going to go into the Hall of Fame." And we just was so excited. I mean, had everything I could do to not want to reach out and just tell her, but she was a special player in this program. I mean, her story, I think, makes her really, really unique. I mean, I've told this story 100 times, but I mean, to know, with her parents leaving the country at such a young age and her knowing that she wanted to play college softball and this was her only opportunity to do so and to stay behind and be raised by her grandparents, um, was just, to me, she's just a phenomenal story. And, I mean, her going into the conference tournament, needing 14 hits in that tournament to tie Stephanie Best to break that record as the A Sun's all-time career hits leader. And in her last at bat, I think she gets that last hit. Just I think from a coaching standpoint, definitely one of the prouder coaching moments in my career. And I mean, I'm real. The other thing too is I'm just as proud of her of all the things that she's done off the field. She's gone on and gotten her doctorate. She's now a doctor. She recently became a published author. So I mean, she's done a lot of really amazing things. And I know her grandfather, played a really big role in raising her and her love for softball and continuing that on. And the year after she graduated, she lost him. And, one of my first thoughts was just of her and her grandfather and, how proud he would be for her to finally be going into the Hall of Fame. So,
Well, congrats to her, well deserved, and I know you're looking forward to that date for that ceremony there in January. In the meantime, you mentioned Allison Benning is a two-way player leading the way. Some of the players that you'll be dependent on. Let's talk about this pitching staff
Yeah.
behind Allison, because I know you feel you pretty good about the depth you've got this year with the pitching there that could maybe have Allison not throw as many innings.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think our goal is obviously to have Allison as fresh as we can have her, come tournament time. And I think the depth of our staff this year is going to really put us in a good situation to be able to do this. I mean, this pitching staff we have is the best pitching staff we've had since I've been here. We've got two young freshmen pitchers that are the real deal. I mean, I think on any other team would be battling for the top two spots in the rotation. We just happen to be fortunate that we've got a kid like Allison here. We got a freshman left-hander, Macy Hunnell, out of Kansas City, hard throwing kid from the left side, 65, 66. That's been as good as advertised, early on for us. We've got another freshman pitcher out of LA who, coincidentally, we found because of my sister playing at Michigan with Sarah Griffin, and Sarah Griffin was her pitching coach. And she called me and she said, "Jeff, you got to see this kid." And she got her out in front of me for a camp, and we fell in love with her as soon as we saw her. She's out of the Firecrackers organization out in Southern California, and she's been the real deal as well. So, I mean, we feel really fortunate to have two really, really good freshman arms. We had a kid last year who will be a sophomore now, Cam Ponick, who we expected a lot of big things, and I think she really struggled a little bit making that adjustment, to Division I softball. Who, this year coming into her sophomore year has taken that step, and then she looks like the kid that we thought we were going to get last year. So, I mean, I really think we've got, at the bare minimum, we've got four kids that are in contention for those top of the rotation starts. And I mean, we legitimately could go into, 3-game weekend conference series where we could throw a different kid each game, because I think our pitching is not only that good, but it's that deep. So, it's going to be my job to keep all those pitchers happy and make sure they're all getting their innings. But I feel really good about where our pitching staff is. Like I said, I think it's the best staff we've had since I've been here. And obviously that's such a huge part of the game. You got to be really good in that regard. And I think this pitching staff is going to really be a difference maker for us this year.
Of course, they're all being helped developed by Amber Pfizer, who we had on this off season, and she gave you a lot of credit for giving her the opportunity to be the pitching coach, but still allow her to play professionally.
Mm.
And it seems to be working out there. Another banner year, and I know it's pretty good to have somebody like her. How were you able to find her and get her to your staff here? Because it's been paid off. She's become quietly now one of the hot names when it comes to pitching coaches.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Amber's been great. I mean, she was someone obviously who I knew. I recognized the name and I knew who she was. And, every time I asked around about knowing that I needed to find someone to kind of, be able to build a really solid pitching staff, whenever I would ask people whether, it was, my resources, the coaches at Michigan, or even when I asked Tim, or even, I can remember, standing at a field in Colorado watching a game, and I'm standing next to Jen Rocha, and I would ask her, like, give me a name. Who's somebody? Who should I go and get? And, the one name that I kept hearing over and over again was Amber Pfizer, Amber Pfizer. So, she was kind of somebody that we really kind of targeted for that position. And, when we hired Mario, he had a little bit of a relationship with her from when he was at Valpo, and he tried to get her to come to Valpo. And, we just kind of started talking and started talking. And, I think once her and I got on the phone and we started having conversations, and, we're both two kids from the Midwest. I mean, I'm from Chicago and she's from Iowa. And, we both just kind of talked about a lot of the same things. We wanted a lot of the same things. Our thoughts were a lot of the on the same wavelength in terms of, programs that are successful, and building a programs, having staffs that stick together and are together for a long period of time. And I think we just all felt really good about sharing those common thoughts. And, she's been a great fit for us. And, She's done a really good job with these pitchers and bringing them along. And, I mean, it's easy to look at the impact she's had on our pitching staff, but I mean, me being an offensive guy, I mean, her benefit to us on the offensive side is immense. I mean, the looks that we get off of her each week, just make every situation that we go into, whether it be in Gainesville or on the weekend in an ASUN series, we're not surprised by much of what we see because we're seeing a very elite pitcher that's throwing to our hitters all throughout the week. So she's been great. Love having her here. I mean, obviously I know she's been a bit of a hot commodity and stuff, but I think Amber feels really good about her life here in Florida and being able to do her playing career and me supporting that and everything along the way. So I think this is something that's been a really good fit for all parties.
Yeah, she said she enjoys throwing batting practice there. Do the players realize, oh, we got an All-American throwing at us?
Yeah, I mean, you'll get a lot of, I mean, there's sometimes, where kids will walk away from the plate and they got this humble grin on their face with because of, the repertoire that she'll throw at them and stuff. But yeah, I mean, they all get it. They understand the resource. And, I mean, I think at first, I think some of them were a little bit overwhelmed, but I think as they got a little more acclimated to it and they understood, what we preach to them, hey, embrace the grind, try to enjoy this being hard to try and make it easy on game days. So, yeah, it's been a huge asset and a huge plus for us.
Over on the offense, we talked about Allison. Give us some names of especially new faces you think can contribute to the offense, and what do you want the identity of the 2025 offense to be?
Yeah, so I mean, this was kind of the year that we identified that we were going to start transitioning a little bit more into what I wanted us to look like. Just because we had such a large senior class that graduated. We led the ASUN last year in home runs. I mean, we kind of lived and died a little bit too much, in my opinion, by the long ball. I think we'll still have that element to our game, but I want us to be a little more balanced. I want us to be really difficult to play against. So we kind of have targeted this was the off season where we were targeting bringing in, the speed, the slappers, the short game type kids. And that's, pretty much exclusively what we targeted in the portal. We brought in three kids that we think are really going to elevate us on the offensive side. We have, I mentioned Lulu Brock, who transferred in from UAB. She's a kid that played a lot of softball at UAB. Had a hand injury last year that required surgery. So, she was kind of working through some of that rust in the fall. But she's been everything that we've been looking for in terms of that triple threat, can play some short game, hit at the top of the order, runs really well, high on base percentage. She's done a really good job with that. I'd say, another kid I think that's really been a pleasant surprise was Lauren Beavis, who transferred in from USF. She was a kid who didn't get a ton of run there at USF, but we really kind of liked her potential with her skill set, another triple threat type kid. So we targeted her as well in the portal. She's come in, done a really nice job for us, hit over 300 in the fall, led our team in stolen bases. Really been another one of those kids that we can hit in the top of the order that, I mean, like you mentioned, Allison's stats. I mean, she had 16 home runs last year, but only drove in 46. And that was because we didn't really have those high on base percentage kids at the top of our order. So we really started to, really kind of targeted that. And I really want to be a little more balanced on offense. So that was kind of the goal, to kind of start overhauling our roster in that sense. And then probably the kid that's really going to be the troublemaker at the top of the lineup for us is Kaylin McCarthy. We call her JJ for obvious reasons. But she, is a transfer from Arizona State. She's not the biggest kid, but man, she's got a big arm and the kid can flat run. She runs everything down in the outfield. And, she's a true triple threat. I mean, even she's one of those kids that even if you know that a bunt's potentially coming, that she can still beat it up. The speed is that real. But yeah, I mean, I think those three kids have really been a big part of, the overhaul that we wanted to do on the offensive side. And we still, had our fair share of home runs and power from the middle of our lineup. But I think we're going to be a lot more challenging to play against. And we're going to be able to play, more the way that I want to play on offense, where we're constantly going to be able to apply pressure, steal bases, force mistakes, things like that.
Now that's always been what you've liked.
Yeah,
Has it been unique, kind of having to adjust to what you have to
yeah.
some extent? Because there's, you haven't had all the pieces you've wanted, but now you seem, it sounds like you finally are getting to that place.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that was the challenge. I mean, I think everybody, right, when they take over a program, wants to right away start making it look like what they want it to look like. But I recognize that we had a really strong nucleus that kind of fit a certain system. And I just felt like it was the best thing for us to remain competitive is to play to that style. And then when we move on from that class, then that at that point we'll start to make that adjustment to how we, play on the offensive side. Um, but yeah, I mean it's been I mean we're much more balanced. I think we're going to be really a lot harder to play against. We're not going to be as dependent on the long ball. I mean, don't get me wrong, we'll still have, our fair share of those. I think Allison, over our eight game fall season, I think she hit 10 home runs and has 30 some RBIs through 8 games. I mean, so I mean, we're still going to have that element to our game, but I think we're going to have people on base a lot more. We're going to be able to generate runs. We're going to be able to be able to beat you in more ways than just via the long ball moving forward. And I'm excited about what we have, and the challenge that I've told our kids, look, the narrative from outside of the program is about what we lost. We lost 9 seniors that played a lot of softball at UNF and good players. Shannon Glover had a tremendous career at UNF. Abby Annette had a great career. Savannah Chanel, great career. Logan Jackson, great career. Those kids are all gone, and I've told our kids that I'm fine with that being the narrative outside of the program, and our kids have really bought into their job being to change that narrative about it's not about the kids that aren't here, it's about the kids who are still here. And I think we were able to bring in through the portal those kids to fill those needs that we have to try and enable us to keep moving on that track from where we were last year. I mean, one of the things that I really set out when I took over the program is our program's kind of been like this, like we peak a year in the tournament, then we fall back down, then we rise back up after we, kind of rebuild the team back up and stuff like that. And I told the kids the challenge here is we got to get rid of that word rebuild. It's got to be about us reloading. And this, I think, is our first chance to kind of check the oil and see where we're at, in terms of doing that. But I think we feel really good about, the group that we have. And, I mean, I think they expect, a lot of the noise from the outside to be about what we've lost. But, there's 23 players and 3 coaches that are in that room every day and see what we have and feel really good about it.
It sounds to me you're very comfortable, literally now as the chair of the head. Because I remember when you first took over, you admitted, "Hey, there are things I'm learning." There's
Yeah.
what once it's one thing to kind of offer advice when you're the associate head coach, but once you're in that chair, there's a lot of things you've got to learn and things like that. But it sounds like you're much more comfortable in that chair now, and you're enjoying the chair because I've heard, that others, your name has been floated. I mentioned Amber, your name's been floated for power forward positions in recent years. But people, the feedback is no, he's happy. He wanted to be a head coach. He's happy where you're at. Is that accurate?
Mhm.
That you're pretty where you're at as a head coach right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy. I mean, I have an opportunity, and like Tim at Florida is a great resource for me and a great friend, and we talk about this all the time. When you have an opportunity to run your own program and build your own schedule, you can't take something like that for granted. So, I mean, in that regard, yeah, very, very happy. I mean, I'm I feel a different level of energy this year because I feel like I'm able to start now turning the program a little bit into more of what I want it to look like. And it's not anything against, what we looked like in the past because we had success with it, but we want to have success that we can maintain on a year to year basis. I went back today and I was looking at some numbers. Since I've been here in 2015, we've never made the tournament in back to back years. So we've got an opportunity to do that again this year. We haven't won a regular season conference championship since 2013. I think we have a very realistic chance of doing that this year. But yeah, I mean, I feel a different level of energy because I have excitement towards, now I'm able to put the program more in a position where it looks like kind of what I want it to look like. So that's been really good. But I don't know. I mean, honestly, Eric, when I got into this, all I wanted was a chance. I never said I had to become a head coach. I was very happy in my role that I was playing at UCF. I never had any expectations other than hopefully I was going to get an opportunity to prove that I could do this. And that has always been the challenge for me. I mean, like I told you earlier in the call, I feel a sense of obligation to every kid who's played in this program, who's embraced the goal of getting this program into a regional, and has fallen short or hasn't gotten there. I do feel an obligation to every single one of those kids, to get this thing into the postseason tournament. But for me, I'm happy with what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing. I've never been somebody that said if I don't end up being a head coach or I don't have my own program that this was a failure or this isn't what I wanted out of this. I just love competing. I'm getting older and don't get to compete as much as I once did when I was younger, but I enjoy every day waking up and embracing that competition and going to battle every day. And, if I'm doing that as a head coach or I'm doing that in some other role, I'm still going to embrace it the same way and try to figure out a way to win.
You mentioned Tim Walton, so I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about Tim Walton as we talk. He's been inducted into the NFCA Hall of Fame in Dallas.
Hmm.
That's been a big part of the festivities this past weekend. I feel like you and I might be the only ones not in Dallas celebrating that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you will have the honor of being the first head coach to go up against him as a quote officially a Hall of Famer. As Florida's announced their schedule, you're going to open their season up there in Gainesville. What has Tim meant to you? Because there's been a lot of people coming out this week, obviously, for him being honored that have,
Yep.
meant a lot of his career. Coach Ball Malone's been very open about how Tim has helped her in her
Yeah.
in career, and I know you're on that list.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, I don't, there's no doubt in my mind that I'm not in the position that I'm in if I don't have a resource like that is willing to pick up the phone and answer my questions and, just talk, shop, talk about hitting, talk about different strategies, different, mechanisms, formatting your practice. I mean, he's the real, he's the GOAT. I mean, you don't have um, you don't think about who are some of the elite coaches in college softball and not have his name come to mind. I mean, I've been really fortunate and really blessed that I've had some really positive role models and coaches that have been resources to me, whether it's been, Hutch, as in my early stages of getting going, and Bonnie Thole is now the head coach at Michigan. Patrick Murphy obviously is another one who's been a huge, tremendous resource to me. But the one who's probably made the biggest impact on me has been Tim, and just a tremendous human being. I feel really fortunate to call him a friend. I mean, a lot of the things that we did last year that helped us become successful. I mean, to be completely honest, my 50th birthday was last year. We both have an affinity for Vegas. We both got married in Vegas. He was out in Vegas for my 50th birthday last year, and helped me celebrate. And we sat, one night, around a dinner table, and I asked him, and he was very transparent with his, information in terms of how he formats practice and how he does different things. And when you're faced with this type of situation, how do you handle it and stuff? And, those are the things I think that just, I don't take for granted having, the opportunity to have those conversations. It's something I've really passed on to Mario and Amber. As me, even now as a head coach, like I still call out and I still ask questions and I still, have these resources. But, you don't have a Mount Rushmore of college coaches without Tim Walton being on it. I mean, he's tremendous. He's a great person. He's a great friend. I'm excited for him. I shot him a text this morning because I know it's going to be a busy day for him. Just to let him know, that I, appreciate his friendship and everything he's done for me. And I couldn't think of someone who's more deserving. I'm really excited to get a look at this suit that he designed for the enshrinement. That was another thing we talked about. I know he was big on wanting to put together a custom suit, and some of my good friends over at State and Liberty have done a lot of awesome things for me. I brought Tim to State and Liberty, and they're putting together a really special suit for his Hall of Fame induction. So I'm really excited to kind of get a look at the suit. And it wouldn't shock me if Jordan didn't throw together some custom Jordans to commemorate the night or something for him. But, well deserving. His teams are tremendous. I mean, they're really hard to play against. And, you mentioned we're opening the season there. And that was another thing that we kind of sorted out on that trip in Vegas. Hey, why don't you open the season in Gainesville next year? And it's something our program's never done. We've never been a part of opening night. So we're super excited about the opportunity. And, I know our kids, love the chance to not only compete against Florida, but go to that, electric environment in Gainesville. And, I'm sure it'll be every bit of that on opening night.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't he like one of the first people when you got to UNF as an assistant coach and you handled the scheduling? He was one of the
Mm,
first people to say, "Yeah, I'm willing to go play at your place. Not you don't have to just
mm,
come to my place. I'll do a
yeah.
home and home." Whereas maybe let's be honest, other people didn't want to do that when you were there at the beginning. There is that accurate?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's him. Like I said, I mean, he's been tremendous. He's been an immense supporter of me, obviously, in my journey and my career. And like I said, really fortunate to call him a friend. One of the first people when I took over that was willing to, not only have us play there, but was willing to come here and play. He will open up the season in Gainesville, and then I think the following week he's coming back to UNF to play us again in a midweek game. So, really just very appreciative of everything he's done, not only for me but for our program. And he was just here in the fall when we played him. I mean, he's very willing to come here, and he's just a great person in that regard. And even small things like last year, we're going into the regional tournament. We broke like 4 or 5 bats the weekend before, and they weren't going to be able to get us replacement bats, in time before we were leaving to go to Alabama for the conference tournament. And I know Tim and them, they swing Louisville Slugger, along with us down in Gainesville. I pick up the phone, I call him the next day. I had 5 bats, sitting at our front door. So it's just the type of person
Oh
he
wow,
is. I mean, yeah, I
that's a
mean, he's just a great he's not only a great softball person, but he's a great human being.
yeah, that's a busy. He's done a lot of stuff like that behind the scenes, so well deserved honor for him. And
Yep.
I'm sure they may, I don't know. I mean, I'm not the Florida marketing, but they'll probably honor him opening night. You'll be there to see it. I mean, him as
Yeah,
a Hall of Famer there.
I hope so. I mean, I'd be a great, a great thing, a great honor to be a part of. And I know he's got some really special, relationships with various people, throughout the sport. And a lot of them were former teammates, that he had throughout the years and things like that. And I feel very fortunate to be, a small part of that select group and not having been a former teammate of his. And um, just like I said, I can't thank him enough for all the things he's done for me. And I'm glad we had this opportunity just to talk about how special of a person he is on this special night for him.
Another a cool, amazing this year in 2025. I believe you're coming down to UCF for a tournament.
Yep.
Week 4, 3 or 4, at the end of February, Marchish range there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
I believe it is week 4. Yep.
Week
Yeah.
4. I
So,
only bring that up because I think it's fitting that you'll be coaching at UCF. This is the year that's going to mark the 10-year anniversary of the UCF 2015 team, which we've documented before in your previous appearances on the show. That's where you
yeah.
got your college start as
Yeah.
a volunteer under head coach Renee Lors Gillespie
Yeah.
and UCF there. I'm
Hmm.
not going to give too much away because I'm not allowed to, but I do know there are plans to honor the 2015 team later in that month in March. Give me your thoughts on that 25th. 10 years now.
Yeah.
And we're hitting that anniversary. Time flies, as they say.
It it does. It's hard to believe it's that long. It feels just like yesterday. And that obviously was a special team. I mean, I know that program's gone on to kind of push the envelope even further. getting into regionals and different things, hosting regionals and stuff like that. But I think, that 2015 team was a team that really kind of started to create that evolution for that program. I mean, it was a special group. I don't know if memory serves, it may have been the first time they won the regular season and the conference tournament in the same
Both in the
year.
same year. Both in the
In the
same year.
same year. Yep. Yeah. I mean, that was obviously a special thing to be a part of. And it seems like only yesterday that McCloskey's ball was going over the wall and left to give us that win over Tulsa. And I feel like I can still hear your call from that. So I mean, yeah, special group of kids. It's funny. I still will hear from some of those guys from time to time. Brittany Solis. Every now and then I'll hear from her on social media. Actually, Farah, I know, is coaching over in the Orlando area, and I just spoke to her a couple weeks ago. She had a kid that she, felt was, potential to be a really special college player, and she just, had reached out and was like, "I really enjoyed, our time, and I speak so highly of our time of playing for you and stuff, and I really just want to put this kid on your radar," type of thing, and it was great, kind of just reconnecting with her.
Kelly
Um,
Novak's coaching Monteverde, I believe.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So you know, a lot of future coaches were a part of that team, and even that staff. I mean, that we had with Renee, obviously now being at Iowa, and Hillary is at Quinnipiac, and myself now the head coach here at UNF, and I know Tiff has kind of moved on outside of the game and has a great life away from softball, but crazy just to look back and think there were three. Head coaches, a part of that team, and stuff. But yeah, it was a awesome year. One I'm very fond of. Obviously, I still, see that championship ring from time to time, and brings back a lot of good memories. And last year I got a chance to go up against Renee, playing her for the first time when she brought Iowa down here, and we played. And it was a proud moment, to have the pupil be able to beat the teacher, so to speak, in that game. And I still have the lineup card. I saved that just as a little, something
We
special
got
to
a photo
have.
of the
And
lineup card. Did you exchange? Were you both exchanging left? Do we have a photo of that? Do we get a photo?
yeah, I have. There's got to be a photo somewhere.
All right,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
we need to
sure.
find that. We need to find that.
Yeah, but I mean, it was, obviously just, seeing her again, and, thanking her for the opportunity because, I mentioned obviously what Tim has done for me, but if Renee doesn't take a chance, on this travel ball coach and give him an opportunity to get his foot in the door, then I'm probably not here today either. So, just, thanking her for that opportunity. And, she understands I'm a competitor, and she knows I wanted to win that game, and our kids understood that too. And, it felt good to, obviously win that game, but afterwards just, share an embrace, and, thank her. And, and she passed along, and, that she's really proud of me and everything that I've done. So, how Renee is always, gracious. And, it was great seeing her, and, having a chance. And who knows, maybe there'll be a tournament at UCF one weekend where Iowa, Quinnipiac, and UNF will all be invited back or something.
Listen, I'm gonna give you all of you a hard time and Coach Bear on this because the schedule for UCF just came out this past week. I look at it. I knew you were coming because you and UCF play every year. I think you've played
Yeah.
literally every year since you've been at
Oh
UNF,
yeah,
correct?
absolutely.
And then
Yeah.
some years at home and away and things like that. And I noticed the weekend before you're here at UCF, Hillary is bringing her Quinnipiac team to play at UCF in a tournament. I'm like, wait a
Yeah.
minute. You guys could get on the same page here and get on the.
Right.
I've gone on Renee already about not playing at UCF. I'm like, you know the facilities pretty well over there. You should be able to get yourself in a tournament. I think you'll be all
Right.
right. How did we not get this happen? How did we not
Right.
get you and Hillary on the same tournament? Anyway, I'm gonna get.
Right.
Who do I need to yell at this?
Yeah, we got to get that set up. I mean, maybe just the casual reminder that, hey, Jeff was at UCF at one point, Hillary was at UCF at one point. And,
I'm gonna have to. I think I'm the only
um,
person left that
yeah,
might know
you're
this.
right. You're
Like,
right. You're
I think
probably
it's me
right.
and Dean Smith, who's like the scoreboard operator for a lot of the softball games. They use that might be the only two people that know that. He may not even remember that. I'm the only one that remembers this stuff. That's
Yeah,
all.
I mean, I thought. the first year I came back, I think they had Shelby there to throw out the first pitch. So I thought, all right, well,
Yes.
maybe year two they'll let me throw out the first pitch. But
I was expecting. I was like, they surprised me last year with like honored me with the 600th game at UCF.
yeah,
I was waiting to see you pop up on as a cameo on the video. Never happened.
yeah, they never. I mean, I'd been more than willing to put a little video together,
Listen,
but
listen. No, you wouldn't believe how many former players were mad that they were not included in that video. So I stay
oh,
away from that. I stayed
I can
away.
imagine.
I mean, Britt, you mentioned Brittany Solis. She was angry. Like California, like,
Yeah,
I wanted to be included on that. I had nothing to
yeah,
do with it, Britt. So anyway, I'm gonna stay out of trouble.
yeah. No, absolutely.
That's a lot of fun. Let me get you a couple quick thoughts here.
Mhm.
Your reaction to the ASUN tournament? It's going to go 10 teams, as I understand. It's going to be another year in the neutral site, the same site you were in last year. As
Yeah.
somebody who has hosted the conference tournament before, has played on the road in the conference tournament, now you're going to be in a neutral site. How would you compare and your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's okay. I mean, the facilities obviously are nice. I mean, it was nice having all those auxiliary fields where you could get up there and get your practice in. I think that was one of the things that we did that really helped is we went early. As one of the higher seeds, we didn't start the tournament until later in the week, but we were there with all the early arriving teams because we really wanted to kind of get in that environment and stay in our routine. So I think it was really good in that capacity. It was a little bit interesting in the sense that it's a massive park. I think it's something like 225 down the lines. So it was kind of an interesting dynamic where, you're used to playing a certain style all year long. Like we're going into the tournament. And I know the question that I got asked the most was, you led the ASUN in home runs. You're the top power hitting team, and now you're playing in this massive field. How is it going to change, for your team? And I think we still managed to hit 5 or 6 home runs while we were there. But it was definitely a little bit of a different game in that regard. So that dynamic makes it a little bit interesting. I don't know. Personally, I like it on campus sites. I think it has a different energy that comes with being on a campus location. I mean, I get the whole idea of, well, somebody has a distinct advantage. I mean, obviously, a few years back we hosted and got the advantage of doing that, but my preference would be to move it back onto a campus site, which we'll do, I think, 2 years from now. It's going to stay in Chocolaca Park for the next 2 years, but I prefer the on-campus locations. I think with the ASUN now relocating their offices here to Jacksonville, I think you could see, Jacksonville with its two institutions here, us and JU, potentially doing a lot of hosting in that regard. So my preference would be to do it, in that fashion. I do like the idea of, adding some additional teams into the tournament. I think we had, some good teams that just weren't qualifying for the tournament based on our unbalanced schedule. With us not playing everyone, you had certain teams are playing the top 2 or 3 teams in the league, and then other teams that aren't playing those teams. So it created a little bit, of an unbalance in that regard. And obviously moving into this division format now, it's going to make things really unique because there's going to be teams that aren't in our division that we will not see until the conference tournament. So what does that look like when you're seeing a team for the first time? I think is going to have its own unique challenges, but um, I don't know. I mean, I think, with everything that's changing and everything that's going on, is it the right time to look at everything? Like a lot of these conference tournaments have moved to the single elimination format and different things like that. Is that something that we need to look at? So I think there's a lot of things, that are, up for debate and a lot of things for us to look at. And, hopefully we'll eventually be able to get back to that model where we're able to play, everyone. It's going to be interesting to go through a full conference season. And for us, we're basically only seeing the Florida schools and now West Georgia and Queens. So that'll be a little bit different, but excited to see how it looks. And regardless, I mean, if the tournament's in Alabama or it's held at JU, I mean, you still got to beat a lot of good teams to win the tournament, and that's what our goal is. So we're just gonna, stay focused on doing us and making sure, hopefully, that we're the last team standing.
My last question will be: when you get to February, you get to opening day between now and then, what are a couple keys, questions you maybe have about this team that you're looking forward to finding out once the games start for real? That you think
Well,
will
I mean,
define the season. That'll define the season.
yeah, I mean, I mean, we're young. I mean, we've got a lot of young kids. We've got a lot of really talented young kids, but like I think early on we're going to be, we'll have these moments where we'll play really well and we'll have some moments where we play like a young team. Not just young in the sense that we've got freshmen and sophomores, but young in the sense we've got juniors that are now starting for the first time. So they're young in that regard. I think that'll be the big challenge. I think the fact that we feel so good about our pitching is going to enable our youth to kind of evolve at the pace that they need to evolve at. I think that'll be a big thing for us. I think, I mean, obviously, let's face it, another big thing is, does Benny get to swing the bat? Because I think that's going to be, something we're going to have to get really creative with. But and I think just the people that we need to take that next step in their evolution, much like Hadley did last year. I think there's two or three kids, your Kelsey Vogels, we're getting Logan Turner back from injury and some of those kids that I think can, elevate their game to the next step, I think are going to play a big role, in terms of this team getting to where I think they're capable of being. But I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be surprised by the fact that they're waiting for UNF to take that little bit of a dip coming off of last year, off of what they lost. But I think there's going to be a lot of people surprised with where we're at.
That's UNF head coach Jeff Conrad joining us here on In the Circle on D1 Softball. Always appreciative of you taking the time from a busy schedule to talk to us. We always talk softball. We talk a little Michigan football. We're not going to do as much New York Rangers talk. So I know that's a little
Yeah,
awkward still from
yeah,
last year's my Panthers taking
yeah.
taking you out there in the Eastern Conference Final. But
Yeah, that core group we had, that was our best shot at the cup, and you put an end to that rather
it's
abruptly.
not like
But
I'm wearing I didn't wear the Panther hat just
yeah,
because I want to be respectful, But I have the
I,
Panther hat.
I do appreciate that. I do appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, obviously, it was a great season for your Panthers. That core group we had, I thought that was the year. But Bob outplayed Shesterkin, and that's playoff hockey. So, the Panthers they've obviously got a great team, and they're built for those postseason runs. So, they're going to be right back there in the thick of things. Went down there actually. I don't know if I told you this 2 years ago, over Christmas break, and saw the Rangers play. Great place to watch a hockey game. I don't know if you've ever done it,
Yeah,
but I
Sunrise. Yeah,
highly,
done there. Yeah.
yeah, highly recommend it. That little, they got that whole mall area and everything where you can just kind of walk over
Yeah,
to the
yeah, yeah.
game. It was,
Listen, I've been going to
uh,
games there since Pavel Bure was a
okay.
Panther.
All right.
When they
Yeah.
moved from downtown Miami, they originally played in downtown Miami when they made the Stanley Cup final in '96 with the whole rats and everything like that. But then they
Yeah.
moved it to Sunrise. And then, yeah, that's when Pavel Bure was playing and all that. So, yeah, I'm
Sure.
quite familiar with her.
Yeah. 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 Well, great coach. I love Maurice. His one-liners are great.
Yes.
I'm ready for playoff hockey for that alone.
Listen,
Um,
I'm just happy we didn't blow the 3-0 lead against Edmonton. That was a
yeah.
stressful game 7 for that reason
Yeah,
alone.
that got a little tight, when McDavid's in the other locker room and you're playing game 7,
Yeah, like
it's hold your breath.
everybody's like, are you upset that he got the Conn Smythe? Like, no, he deserves it. Give him that
Yeah,
trophy, man. I don't want to see it
yeah,
again. Good lord.
yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah,
yeah, Rangers will be all right. You're gonna be
yeah,
all, you're gonna be good too. I look forward to seeing you during the season as we get going as season. But it's always fun catching up with you, man. And be safe there. Send my best to the better half over there in the family. She
we'll
better be
do.
coming. She better be coming this time around. Next time, right?
She'll be there. Since it's on the weekend, it just gets hard with those midweeks, but I'm sure the parents and her and my sister probably have a big we'll probably have a big Conrad turnout for that weekend
Okay.
in Orlando. So
Very good. Look forward to it. Until then, thanks for coming on here on In the Circle as always, bud.
yeah, appreciate it. Always good to be with you. And thankfully we didn't get any breaking UCF head coaching news, so we were able to get this done.